How are ya? And welcome to another episode of the Potsy.ca Safety in Sport podcast. This one's brought to you by Atlas Brace, Slabtown Cider, and we just got a new sponsor on board, Endura Apparel. They make high quality mountain biking socks, which could be used in any sport. Today we have a really exciting guest with us from Atlas Brace, and former Canadian pro motocross rider. Ryan Lockhart. So let's get Ryan on here. Hey Ryan, how you doing?
Hey Tanner, good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. We really appreciate you doing this. First high profile athlete on here, so it's really great that you can do that. So tell me a little bit about what you do at Atlas Brace. Let's start by that. And yeah.
I would use the high profile athlete lightly to start off with, but yeah, no, for sure. My daily job is I'm brand manager / sales manager here at Atlas Brace. I started in 2012, so actually going into my 9th year with the company. So kind of from when Atlas was just starting out in 2010, 2011. So kind of been there from the beginning, and and yeah, so just deal with lots of different stuff. I mean, overall grand scheme of things, we're a fairly small company. We don't have a lot of employees, so we kind of, just because I'm brand manager, sales manager, I'm kind of dabbling in a little bit of everything.
So it feels kind of like a family business, I'd say.
It is for sure. So the two owners, which is Brady Sharon, who's an
ex-pro
motocrosser, he's the inventor of the brace, and then Brad McLean, who is a Canadian pro motocrosser back in the day. We're great friends. I mean, I grew up racing with those guys and whatnot. Brady's a little bit younger than us, but yeah, we're all friends here. So it is very family oriented, just
for sure.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool.
So it is a Canadian created company and a Canadian owned. So I feel like a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, we're based out of Surrey, BC. That's where all the product is. Of course, the product's made overseas, but all the development, inventing, design, everything like that is out of our office here, done by Brady.
Cool. That's amazing. I would just like to say I really like the product. I've used a neck brace since I started riding. I started with one of those EVS Evo collars.
Yeah.
I think we all had one of those. And then I went to the Liat brace, one of the first iterations. And once I tried a Atlas brace, it was like night and day different. You guys make a great product. I can't say enough about it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. I mean, it's interesting how the whole company started, and it obviously started with Brady, but Brady kind of back in 2005, 2006, 2007 was racing Supercross, and that was when the first Liat came out in 2006. And then Alpine Star came out shortly
with
after
the BNS.
2008. And Brady actually wore a Liat, wore an Alpine Star.
Okay.
And that's kind of how the whole thing got started, because he was never super comfortable with either or, and thought to himself he was kind of at the end of his career and wanted to move on to the racing side. So it was interesting that's how it kind of started. And he went around to like literally myself and all the pros that he knew and kind of got everybody's feedback, because we all tried them back in 06 to 2008 when both of those came out. And kind of started crunching his brain and figuring out what he wanted to do. And that's when the first Atlas came out. I want to say late 2010 or early 2011.
I remember that. It was like a very, I guess, primitive version of what you're running now. Would you say that the biggest gain was when you guys signed Villapoto? Did that kind of bring your product into the forefront?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously RV was the first guy, and him and Brady are actually really good friends. They were racing together here in the Northwest and whatnot, with us being so close to Washington here. So they were friends, and obviously Villapoto being a full neck brace guy and always wore one right from the beginning. It was great to have kind of RV in the back pocket to be able to get him to try some things and whatnot. But that's 100%. I mean, when we actually didn't get RV right at the beginning, because he still had his contract with Alpine Stars,
right?
Wasn't up yet. So It took us a little bit of time. We had Jake Weimer first. Jake Weimer was the
Okay.
first.
And then that was the connection with the two of them, right? And,
Exactly, because they were both riding for Faction Cowie at the time.
yeah.
So we had Weimer for a full year before we even got to RV. But obviously that was, to get both of them was great. And they did a lot of development for us. I mean, when we first came out, with the original Atlas brace, which that's what it was called, the original.
Okay. Yeah.
It had some flaws to it. It wasn't perfect. I mean, it was heavy, and that was one of the biggest complaints that Weimer and RV had with it. And then we developed the carbon brace, which those guys did a lot of the testing with and stuff like that. And we knew we had to come out with something that was lighter, obviously, for those high-end guys and whatnot. So, yeah, they were, like I said, RV still to this day is involved. We always running ideas by them and stuff like that. And, yeah, it's cool.
I think it's great that you guys can kind of admit the faults and try to correct them. I do remember the early versions. They did seem bulky. But these new ones, and what I like about the new ones too, is that they're at a great price point. I find them very affordable. Going back to when I bought my first Liat brace, it was the Liat Club brace, and it was $500.
Totally, yeah.
Hard to convince your parents to buy you that when they don't even understand the product, right? Because it was a very new kind of thing. So you guys have a new product, the Vision brace. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've had, so the Atlas Air that's been around, we basically have had the same brace in the market since 2016, 2017. We came out with the Atlas Air, which obviously was much improved over the original one as far as lightweight and sleek and lots of cool things about it. The problem that we have with that brace, obviously it's extremely safe, comfortable, and whatnot, but it doesn't work for everybody, and that's the biggest thing that people have to understand. Like, not every motocross rider or downhill mountain bike guy is 5'11", 170 pounds with a tall neck,
right?
So it's very hard to come out with a product, even though we have different sizes and whatnot. But everybody's body type is different. Everybody rides different. Their body position is different. Chest protectors are another hurdle that we always have to overcome. So, the Air doesn't work for everybody, and that's what we've, been trying to work on for the last couple of years, is to come out with something. We feel that we have a good part of the market, captured with the Air, but how do we get more guys in braces? How do we get guys that necessarily may want to wear a brace, but they might be 5'9" and 205 pounds. They still ride moto. It doesn't mean that they can't, but they can't wear a neck brace because they have a shorter neck, stocky body, and whatnot. So that's when
a guy like Alex Martin or Jeremy Martin, right? Those guys have very short necks. You can tell.
100%. And actually, that's where and I won't touch on it too much, but the idea came from one of the Martin brothers. They came to us, came to Brady, and said, "Hey, we would love to wear a neck brace, but let's face it, their helmet literally rests on their shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
They have no neck." So
troll looks like a troll.
Exactly. So that kind of got Brady's brain, moving and going, how do we come up with something? So the Vision's been in the works for about 3 years.
Okay.
Lots of different, variations of it and whatnot, because it's somewhat easy. I'm not the designer, but I think it's somewhat easy to come up with the idea. But there's so many hurdles you got to jump through. Like, is it safe? Does it work? Everything like that. So it takes some time, and obviously trying to launch a new product in the middle of a pandemic isn't the best thing either.
Yeah, it's tough to get people out to the stores for sure. But
exactly, and just with raw materials and everything like that. So yeah, the Atlas Vision is basically designed for those that can't or choose not to because of comfort issues or limitability. With the current Air, right? So the Vision is basically a compression collar. With our Air, of course, we have compression, hyperextension, and hyperflexion. With the Vision, it is literally just compression. So it does not restrict the hyperextension or the hyperflexion.
Right, which is what a lot of guys complain about with getting in the attack position. With the shorter 100%. Necks, they have a tough time. But it depends rider to rider.
Exactly, and even in the off-road side of things, like cross country, GNCC, all the enduro cross, all these different disciplines. We've opened up a whole new avenue with the Vision. These guys can wear them now. They couldn't wear them before. You're in the woods, you've got a backpack on, you're trail riding,
Yeah.
you know, you're going up a huge hill. You can't see up with, you can, and some people are
Yeah.
fine, but not everybody. So
It broadens the market.
Exactly. So we literally feel like we came out with a product that there's still going to be a few that can't. Example, the Martin brothers, like literally their helmet rests on their shoulders.
Yeah.
But
What are you going to do about that, right?
exactly. So we're happy with it. I mean, the launch has been good with it so far, and I mean the response has been great, and we're excited about it. I think the biggest thing though is that it's just important to know that this doesn't replace the air. The air is still here.
Yeah.
Guys like Dylan Wright and guys, you know, like Kyle Chisholm and all these guys that currently wear the air, they're not going to switch to the Vision. So it takes away from the safety. It doesn't have as much safety, and that's no secret.
Yeah, and I love that you guys are transparent about that. You don't try to tell them what it isn't. You tell them exactly what it's for.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm personally an air user. And I've never had an issue with neck braces. So for me, the Vision color is not really for me. I'm better off to stick with the air.
Yeah.
Because I want that. And also at the end of the day, I've got nothing to prove. If they make it, I wear it. That's the way I look at safety equipment. And this is kind of the answer to the whole neck brace debate that we've seen. If you want to talk about that, our buddy Ryan Hughes.
Yeah.
So what he's doing to kind of steer people away, whether or not it's right or wrong. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. Like, for whatever reason, like I question even myself some days. I'm like, why the hell did I get involved with a company that makes a product that's so controversial? For whatever reason, neck braces are just crazy controversial, and they always have been. They have been right from day one, and they will continue to be that way. These guys, these trainers, everything like that, I really shake my head. I was a good rider in my day, and I had some success. I'm not saying I was Ryan Hughes or anything like that. I would never say that, because I don't discredit some of the things that he says.
Because for sure.
What he is telling these people, Tanner, is like, I feel sorry for him, because he's basically like, he could hurt people by saying what he's saying, and that's really not cool. Like, I don't go up to the guy at the local track and say, dude, why are you wearing elbow pads? Like, elbow pads are stupid. Elbow pads restrict they cause arm pump. Like, I don't do that. To each their own, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to wear the safety product, but I guess what really is the irritating part is, like I said, he does this. I don't follow him on Instagram, but of course I go and look at his crap, because you almost have to see what he's talking about. But when he does a video and he opens his gear bag and he shows his jersey and he says protection. Are you kidding me? Like, you're basically saying, like, don't wear chest protectors, don't wear neck braces, don't wear knee braces, don't do all these things. Like, dude, trust me, like, if you go ride your dirt bike and you're not wearing gloves, it feels awesome. Like, it feels great to have your hands on your grips. Like,
exactly. What's next? Is he going to tell us not to ride with a helmet on because you can see better? Right?
It's been said before, people trying to compare this. It's just a shame that he's doing that. And like I said, he is a very smart gentleman. I wouldn't discredit that. And the fact that his riding technique and everything like that. I mean, he was very successful, and he runs a great, training academy that he has. But man, like, he is not an educated professional on this stuff. And I would say that to his face if it ever came up, but it's not even worth it, because you're never going to win the battle with them.
No, it's I put him in the same realm as the anti-maskers, those types
100%.
of people, right? So it's trying to argue with the wall, like trying to argue with a stupid person. You're never going to win, because they're never going to listen.
Exactly.
And like you said, it's so dangerous what he's doing, and you can't argue opinion as if it is fact. And that's what he does. He argues his opinion as if it is an actual fact, which we all know it's not, because you guys have research and development engineers. You guys you have people that went to school that know things, whereas
Yeah.
Ryan rode a dirt bike for a living. And
Yeah.
100% I agree. His philosophy on riding position, proper technique, all makes sense. But you
Yeah.
can't discredit what people are wearing, what people choose to put on their body to protect themselves. That's just wrong.
Yeah. No, exactly. And you're right. You hit the nail on the head. And that's the thing. And like we're not like the motorcycle industry or action sports industry, whatever you want to call it. It's fairly small. I mean, nobody's in this to put out a product that's potentially going to hurt somebody or
No
do
way.
more
Yeah.
damage. And it's very, upsetting to hear some of the things that he says and how anti neck brace that he is, because at the end of the day, like, he has his company Rhino Power, like we have our company Atlas Brace. Now, how would he feel if people were going around and just saying Rhino Power causes heart attacks, Rhino Power causes death, blah blah blah? That's basically what he's saying.
Yeah.
In a roundabout way about our product, and it's completely wrong. And it's a shame because he's uneducated in the topic, and he's still unfortunately basing, and even the Leah crew over there, Chris Leah just did an awesome podcast on pulp a couple
I was just gonna say,
couple weeks ago. It was fantastic. I mean,
yeah,
that guy is so smart. Like,
and the thing is you guys are working together, right? Like, you guys are both making separate products. There's enough people in the market to go around, but
exactly.
there's a third party that's trying to bring you both down.
Exactly. So he's not doing himself any favors, but in all honesty, like, there's been he's starting to get a bit of a negative vibe around him, and people are, if you read some of the comments on his stuff, it's like, Rhino, give it up, man, give it up. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. He's kind of gone off the deep end a little bit, and like I said, man, like, stick to the riding, stick to the training. Like, you're awesome at it, and nobody's would ever say that you're not. But
Yeah.
and he's not the only one. There's other people out there too that think that they know exactly how it works and everything like that. They don't fully get it, and they think that, oh, we just on a Friday afternoon threw together a stencil, and we're like, oh, let's put this thing to the market. That's not how it works, man. There's so many hoops you got to jump through on the safety side of things, and liability and everything like that to make this stuff happen. And it's crazy, but anyways, it's going to be that way, and we'll just work our way through it.
Yeah, 100%. Case in point, I was riding at a track in Markham called Ultimate Terrain, and I was just kind of mentioning them about what I'm doing here with the podcast and the brand I'm creating, and just saying I'm trying to promote safety. And right when I said that, some guy goes, "Oh, what do you think about neck braces? You want to have a debate about them?" I'm like, I'll debate you, but I don't know if I'll ever change your mind, because I can tell where you're coming from. He's calling Steve Mathis an idiot. He's saying Rhino's a genius. And I'm like, and this guy's like, he just started riding a year ago.
Yeah.
The type of people.
Yeah, totally. And I get it. I mean, I'm at the tracks all the time, and I guess locally around here, I guess people probably watch what they say because they know where I'm from. But I don't have an issue with anybody's opinion. Like, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. What I think may not be what you think, and vice versa, and that's totally fine. We live in a world that we can be like that. But, like, have some facts, man. Like, if you're gonna go around spouting off and this and that. But this is the world we live in now, though. Social media.
I know.
Like, people, of course, they want to agree with Rhino, and they want to agree with whoever else because they can. It's easy. Now we can listen to them. They feel like this Instagram stuff and everything like that, like, everybody feels that they're part of. If Rhino puts out a video, they feel, and they comment on it and say, yeah, that's awesome. They feel like, they're agreeing with Rhino, so that means they're buddies, and they can just say what they want and agree with them. But it's not necessarily the case. I just say, like, you know what, you guys can, when people are bringing up negative stuff to me, that's fine. Like, that's cool. Like, whatever, it's all good. But, have some facts to it. By saying that, oh, you heard Rhino say it, or some other trainer say it, well, there's no real facts to back that up. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like some people just kind of need someone to tell them how to think sometimes. Common sense isn't too common these days. A lot of people can't think for themselves. So
Right.
a lot of people that follow Ryan are people that like to follow someone who they think is right
Yeah.
100% of the time, right? Um so with regards to that, what are your thoughts on all these pro riders ditching the neck brace, and how do you think that will impact future generations of riders?
Yeah, I mean, it's not awesome by any means. I mean, that's not obviously you would, you know, going back into the old days, you say what wins on Sunday sells on Monday, right? I mean, I think that
Yeah,
things have changed a lot in the past years and this and that, and there are lots of people out there and lots of riders that make their own decision, and just because Ken Roxon won on the weekend on a Honda doesn't mean they necessarily ran to the store on Monday to buy a new CRF
yeah,
450. Obviously we would love to have every guy on the line with an Atlas brace or any neck brace in general. Honestly, God, when we talk about the pro guys, it's like we hate seeing like Barsha stop wearing an Alpine Star brace, and
yeah, and
we hate seeing
Anderson,
Anderson wearing.
yeah,
We would rather have them wearing something, whether it's our product or not. It's irrelevant.
yeah,
It's really more for the neck brace market in general. But these guys, and as well as I do, and whatnot. Literally, if they have the opportunity to feel 0.1% more comfortable with cutting a finger off their glove and just have their index finger being able to touch the clutch, they would do it if it made sense. So
yeah,
we at the beginning we were really like, oh man, we need more pros, and it didn't really at the end of the day change things a whole lot for us, just because
yeah.
one year we had RV, we had Davalos, we had Chisholm, we had Weimer, we had a whole bunch of guys, and
Sexton,
we're spending all this money in marketing and this and that, and our sales were here. They were good. Well, the next year, RV retired and somebody was hurt, and we only had like one dude on the track, and our sales were still here. So of course, like I said, we believe in, how things work with marketing and everything like that, but it's, I don't know at the end of the day if it really, really matters to little Johnny who's riding out at the local track. If he believes in safety, he believes in safety.
yeah, that's fair. Whoops, I think I lost audio here. Oh,
Are you
there, we're
there?
good. Yeah, we're good.
Sorry about that. That was my phone ringing.
Oh, oh,
Um,
no worries.
but yeah, so anyways, literally I think that like I said, if they believe in safety, they believe in safety. I do think we're going to see more pros down the line. I don't know if it's this year, maybe it's next year or whatnot. With the vision, I think it's opened up
Yeah,
a whole new avenue for us to be able to go after these guys and see if they're interested and test it and whatnot. But it really just boils down to what direction we want to market this thing to, in the industry and whatnot. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I would love to see more guys wearing them. But it is
yeah,
what
for
it is,
sure.
and it's how it goes. And like I said, everything changes. It's like Barsha's worn a neck brace for years and years, and he stopped this year. And I mean, if you look at it, he's wearing a big chest protector now. He looks a lot bigger, like not
Yeah,
bigger as a dude, but he might have changed his chest protector. He switched from
A
A
stars to
stars to
TLD. Yeah,
TLD. I don't know if that means anything. I don't know him personally. Sexton was our main guy for the last 3 or 4 years. We kind of worked with him all the way up through from amateurs to pros. And he switched from wearing shift last year with Geico to he had to go to Alpine Star. So what does that mean for us, right? Alpine Star has a brace, but he clearly didn't want to wear that. So we lost another guy there. Same thing
yeah,
happened with Anderson a few years ago. He was an Atlas guy, had to switch and whatnot. I'm not saying that they'd still be wearing our brace if they had the option, but we didn't have the option to continue to work with those guys, which is kind of crappy. But anyways, it is,
yeah.
it is what it is.
It's an interesting position to be in where you have Liat Brace and Alpine Stars both making helmets and gear now.
Yeah.
Um, but when you have a lot of moto guys that don't like to mix, does it kind of make the Leat a one brand kind of brace now? And same with the Alpine Stars. And then you guys kind of have a little bit more of the rest of the market. Would you say it's that way or not so much?
It's hard to say. I mean, there's no question that that probably has a little bit to do to it. I mean, we kind of fall into more a category of like, people can wear Fox gear with 100% goggles. We're more of a neutral branded
Yeah.
brace. I mean, we don't make gear. We don't make anything else besides neck braces and a little bit of protection in the lines of chest protectors and stuff. But yeah, it makes us a little more neutral, but that also makes it tougher because we can't get a top guy that's wearing Alpine Star gear. We can't get a guy that's wearing Leah gear, so to say. So that already, if you look at the caliber of guys that are wearing A Stars right now, there's not that takes away, Tomac, Anderson, Sexton, the Lawrence brothers, like the list goes on.
What's A Stars doing? Are they trying to take over Moto or something? Like it's
crazy. Yeah, I don't
quite
know.
the list.
It's interesting what they're doing. I mean, it's even more interesting that you don't really see a lot of the gear out there. So they got lots of money, obviously, but yeah, you don't see.
Maybe it's their boots. I don't know. Yeah. Everyone likes to run the Tech 10s, I know, but yeah. So that kind of covers that. That was always my thought was like, I know kids are impressionable. Like thinking back to when I was a kid riding, I wanted Fox gear, right? Because when I was a kid, it was Dungey. Dungey was all the rave, and I wanted a Leat brace because Dungey was wearing Leat. But as I got older, I realized what the neck brace does, and I realized that I got a lot to lose. I'm not trying to make it as a pro, so I'm never going to ditch that brace. So, guys don't realize that the pros, that's their life, and a lot of those guys are willing to have a catastrophic injury in order to win. Like you kind of have to be on that level.
Yeah, and honestly, that's kind of what we just said. I mean, they're willing to take that risk, and that's fine. I mean, that's their choice, and I get it. They're racing at the highest level, and they want to feel every bit as comfortable as they possibly can. And I mean, even if it hinders them, 0.1%, then they're gonna take it off, right? So I think that's just the way that market is. I was the same way. Like when I was, kind of in my prime in, 06, 07, 08, like I didn't want to wear a chest protector. I felt so much better without the chest protector, but let's face it, man, when you crash, it hurts. Like, it hurts, and that roost hurts. So it was like things. And, I started wearing a neck brace in 06, kind of when the first Leah came out. Same deal. I went and bought them. I mean, they were hard to buy at the time because the demand was so high for it when it came out. And it was right in 06, was right when Blair Morgan got paralyzed, and me and him were very close. And there was just some really bad stuff going on. And I said, like, I'm never going to ride a dirt bike again without a neck brace on. Well, that wasn't the case. I wore the Leah for probably 3 or 4 months, and I'm like, I don't know, this thing's kind of bulky.
Yeah, it was very
whatnot.
bulky.
And obviously, it was the first generation. Their stuff is phenomenal nowadays too. And then the Alpine Star came out, and then I started wearing the Alpine Star again, and I took it off, and I was like, I feel better without it, and this and that. But that's like the same pro mentality, right? I mean, obviously at the same level that we were just talking about, but it is still a level, and that's how we felt. So, and it still happens to this day, clearly, right?
Yeah, that Leat brace, it was tough to. It was kind of almost like wearing a neck collar that you'd get after you break your neck. Not that bad, but I wore one of those AGV AX8s that Davey Millsaps used to run. So I had that helmet with the club, the original club, and I could not move my head because that had that peak that came down.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get tucked, and I just couldn't do it. So
I mean, honestly, like, and that's so true. I mean, they were super restrictive, and there's no question, but that's what they were designed to do. And I mean, it was so early in the product, but like, if you look at our stuff, Alpine Star stuff, and Leah stuff, and if you put them side by side with the very first gens that came out,
for sure.
It is absolutely crazy. Like, I always tell people, like, man, like Leah stuff is great now. Like they've made some big changes to the braces. Alpine Star is not as deep into this as say we are and Leah is. They have a neck brace and whatnot, same as EVS, but But yeah, they're all good. I mean, major changes, and I guess that's one of the frustrating things to go back on 10 minutes ago. We talked about, please don't make your decision on something that you tried 15 years ago, because
Yeah.
literally it's not the same. And that can go for a helmet or a boot or a chest protector. I mean, the advances
Oh,
in
for sure.
technology and everything has come so far. And even the motorcycles, like, just because you owned a Kawasaki back in 2006 doesn't, and you hated it, doesn't mean that you shouldn't try one nowadays, right? Like, things
Yeah.
have changed.
Yeah, I used to get straight away from Suzuki's because those 0 05, 06 Suzuki's, the 250s used to
Oh yeah.
just grenade, right? So
Oh
my
yeah.
guys I was riding with were like, "Don't buy a Suzuki," and I bought a '09 Suzuki, and that was one of my favorite bikes. The thing turned on a
Yeah.
dime. So you don't
Yeah.
know how things change. And look at helmets. Like back in the day, helmets were just a shell of plastic, some EPS, and some foam. Right now, they've got so much. I think motocross helmets are like revolutionizing the helmet game, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, helmets have come a long way. I mean, everything has come a long ways.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what we're putting on, right from the socks you're wearing. The moto socks have come better. There's compression built into them now and everything like that. So yeah, things change and things continue to get better. I mean, that's what's cool about the sport that we're in. I mean, that's why there's companies like us. We're constantly trying to make things better. I mean, you're never going to have something that's perfect and then you just leave it. I mean, that's just not realistic.
No, I think it's great what you guys are doing. I think it's cool to have that new vision brace that hits that mark of riders that don't really, gel with the main one, but as well as keeping your original line of products that keep the guys like me happy, because I
Yeah.
think they're, I'm sure you've talked to a lot of people that say this, but if I go to the track and I don't have my neck brace, I don't ride.
Yeah. No,
Like
for
that's
sure.
how I feel about it, right? So I'm a pro neck brace. I'm a pro anything. Mouth guards. I used to ride with mouth guards. Talking about your career, so um, 2008, I remember watching you on TV when you're on the Royal Distributing KTM team.
Yeah.
So what was your best season? What were some of your highlights in your Canadian motocross career? And did you do anything stateside?
Yeah. No, a lot of my highlights were actually before 2008. I was young when I turned pro, so I
Okay.
turned pro at 14,
Oh wow.
which was 1998. So I dabbled in a few nationals in 98 in Canada, and then 99 I did the full series and actually got some really good results. And then in 2000, I got a deal to ride for Ron Ashley's two-wheel team out of Guelph, which I'm sure you were familiar with. Rode for them and had a bunch of injuries and whatnot, but things started to turn around for me in like 2001, 2002, 2003. I won my first national moto in 2003 on a KTM.
Awesome.
125 class was my only moto win. Unfortunately, I thought there'd be a lot more after that. They always say the first one's the hardest one to get, and the rest of them come easy. Well, that wasn't the case for me. I
Yeah, it
never
depends,
got
eh?
another one, but I got a podium at the World Supercross GP in Toronto at the Rogers Center in
No way.
2004. So I was on the podium with Nathan Ramsey,
Oh, cool.
guys like that. So that was a huge highlight because I wasn't a Supercross guy by any means. I never even really rode a Supercross track up until the day of the event. And I always remember the story, like going out there and trying to learn the track. I mean, we were riding outdoor suspension. We didn't have
Oh
Supercross.
my God, that would have been brutal.
So things were different. But literally there was two triples, like two Supercross triples on the track, and I would not jump one of them. Practice, I didn't jump it. Qualifier, I didn't jump it. And then the main event, I got like a 5th place start, and I'm like, holy shit, I got to go for it. Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do? So literally jumped it the first lap and jumped it for
Stripped it and ripped it.
15 laps straight. I'll always remember that.
That's
And
cool.
then I did Supercross. I did just about the full Supercross series in the U.S. in 2006
Okay.
on a 450. It was probably the best, one of the best memories of my career, for the pure fact that the people you met and the experience that you
Yeah.
got doing it, and it made me a better rider.
How many mains did you make?
I didn't make any mains. I made all the
Okay.
night shows. I was
Awesome.
always like miss it by 2, miss it by 3, miss it by 4.
Yeah, that's tough.
I regret a lot of the things that I did that year because I feel like I probably could have made some mains later in the year, but I didn't know bike setup and anything like that. Like I was riding some janky suspension at the time, and it wasn't. I couldn't go through the whoops very good and whatnot. So it was cool, but the cool part of it was I came back to Canada and had the best outdoor season I ever had as far as consistency and stuff. I finished national number 6,
Awesome.
which was the lowest I ever got. And 07 was good. I did lots of arena crosses. I raced in Germany for a winter. I went to Bermuda to do some racing. I went to Finland to do some racing. So I got the opportunity to race basically all around the world in a sense. So yeah, lots of good highlights. And in 2008, I had some good rides, but unfortunately in the winter of 2009, I got hurt in California training. I was getting towards the end of my career, like the writing was kind of on the wall. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of money in 2008, 2009. We're kind of going through a tough time with motocross in Canada, but I got hurt at Glen Helen. I shattered my kneecap. And I was really close friends with Grant Langston at the time, and he highly suggested I get surgery from this doctor in California, and I wanted to come home, but he's like, no, you should get this. He's a good guy, blah, blah, blah. Well, long story short, I ended up getting an infection in my knee, and seven or 8 surgeries later, in 3 years, basically I didn't ride a dirt bike for almost 3 years. So,
oh my God. So that was kind of the end of it, eh?
That was pretty much the end of doing anything substantial. Of course, I came back in 2012 actually to be Kyle Keith's mechanic for the year. I was kind of didn't know what I wanted to do. I was working at a bike shop out here in BC, and I hated it. And I'm like, man, this sucks. And he called me up and said, hey, you want to come do this? I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, let's go. And he ended up breaking his femur at the second round in Kamloops. And John Nelson, who owned Machine Racing at the time, he's like, well, you want to ride the bike? Like we already got the budget, we got the bikes, and let's just go have fun and do it for the sponsors. Well, I trained for 2.5 months of not really riding for 3 years, and ended up coming out to Gopher Dunes. Was my first national back, which I don't recommend doing that.
Oh man,
at Gopher Dunes.
Yeah.
I ended up pole shot in the second moto, and I ended up getting top 10s by the end of the season. Walton was my best one at the end of the year, and I think I got a 7th in a moto, which was really cool. And continued to ride. From then, I did a couple nationals here and there, and would be 10, 11, 12, and then really the last highlight of it was I decided, for whatever reason, when Jetworks announced their Triple Crown thing right at the beginning, I did the Triple Crown Arena Cross portion.
Okay.
And I finished 3rd in the series, which was kind of cool. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I mean, being I was 34, 35 at the time.
It's like Brayton.
And yeah, it was kind of neat. So still riding lots and enjoying it. My son rides now. He rides KTM E50, so that's kind of neat. So we ride lots together and whatnot.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so now all your time is spent with the little one, trying to get him all learned up.
Yeah, still, like I said, I still enjoy selfish time, I call it, to go and put some motos in and kind of escape reality a little bit and whatnot. And I'm still riding and training a little bit, and obviously not as much as I used to, but I'll come back and do Walton this year, do the plus 30 class. I'm not quite eligible for plus 40 yet, but go back and ride. I still love the competitiveness of it. I still love that feeling of doing well and putting in the work to get the result. And that was something that I always missed back in my younger days. I didn't work as hard as I should.
Motocross riders are a certain breed, right? And I mean, it's so hard to give it up. I've tried to give it up a few times, and every time I come back, talking about 2012, I kind of mentioned this to you. You were ripping that season, because I remember I saw you at a local track in Uxbridge, where I'm from, the Poor Boys MX track. And I've never seen, I mean, I've been to Supercross and been to, I used to go to Unadilla back in the day just to watch nationals, but I've never been 10 feet from somebody going through a set of rollers so fast that you could hear the case of the engine smacking off each roller. Like that blew my mind. So you were on another level that season. And what do you think? What did you think about that track? Personally, I thought that was a really neat track. I don't know. You've been on a lot of different tracks. What's one of your favorites?
Yeah, that place was cool. I always liked riding there. It was always neat. It had good dirt, right? It was a little bit sandier soil when we went up on the hill and whatnot. But yeah, no, it was cool. Track wise, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if I really ever had a favorite. I always said like any track I did good at was always my favorite. It seemed like at the end of the day, but you know, it's weird. I was never like a sand specialist or a hard pack specialist or a rut specialist, anything like that. I was just always kind of neutral on all that stuff, but I always enjoyed Walton, like especially like in the last 5 years. It was weird when I stopped racing the nationals like for a living. I always hated Walton. Like I literally could never ride the ruts. I always sucked in the ruts and this and that.
Yeah.
I went back there in 2012, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, what the hell just happened? Like now all of a sudden I can ride this track. Like it's just all mindset for me.
It's the pressure, for sure.
It always was, but I always seem to do well, like on the softer tracks that got roughed and stuff. Even though I was never famous for my training or being in shape, but I was always a very meticulous rider and could pick good lines and stuff like that. So tracks like Deschambault in Quebec that got real gnarly and rough, you know, I'd always have to be smart because I wasn't the Kyle Keese type guy that could just go down the main line for 30 minutes and just pound yourself into the ground.
Oh my God, that guy was gnarly.
Exactly. I would always get so tired. So I was always good at those tracks that you had to find those little sneaky lines and whatnot. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's one of those things I always tell people. So I never did anything special in motocross. I always loved it. My biggest goal was to qualify for the Trans Canada stuff at Walton.
Yeah.
The year I was literally not eating butter on my toast that year because I wanted so bad to make it, and I ended up getting a brand new bike, training a month in of training, and I snapped my femur. I was out for the year, and that kind of was like the nail in the coffin right off the bat. I was like, as soon as I put the pressure to myself is when things go wrong. And when I came back not trying to do anything with it is when I feel like I'm a better rider and I feel like I'm having the most fun on my bike.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's how it works.
Yeah, 100%. So I won't keep you too much longer there, Ryan. Did you have any other final thoughts, anything about Canadian moto, about what you're seeing right now? Or
yeah, I mean, the sport's in good shape. You know, I'm involved pretty heavily with the local scene out here in BC and whatnot. And obviously, I follow it across Canada. And I mean, the sport, this pandemic has been really bad in a lot of ways. But
for sure,
for our little industry and whatnot, it seems like motorcycle sales and apparel sales and protection sales, everything is up and up. And man, there's so many guys riding dirt bikes, and I love it. So many kids riding dirt bikes. It's great to see. Of course, now not everybody's going to stick with it once the world kind of opens back up. But I think it's great. I mean, I think we're in a good place moving forward. Maybe not so much for this summer, but definitely for 2022. I'm excited to see what, you know, the racing is and stuff like that. Things have kind of, you know, the last few years have been on a bit of a downward slide, but this pandemic has kind of brought things back up. It's crazy.
Yeah, people are finding moto again.
Exactly. People are finding moto and people are starting to enjoy it. I mean, there's tons of dudes, whether it be young or old. I know as many young kids as old guys that are getting back into it, right? So it's really cool to see, and I'm excited. I mean, I'm happy to be where I'm at right now, doing what I'm doing, because obviously our industry is booming and it's happening, and hopefully it can continue for years to come.
Absolutely. Well said. It's cool to see there's a track in Markham now. Ontario's been hurting really bad for tracks.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've ridden there. 4 Winds by the casino there was a great track. Barry Etherington.
Yeah.
Kyle Keese was there all the time. I remember that's where I learned to ride. And when that shut down, that was just like such a big blow to Ontario motocross scene. Like we'd have to go, I live in Pickering, I'd have to go all the way up to Gopher Dunes or to RJ's, or it's just tough, right?
Yeah. I mean, that sucks. That takes the fun out of it when you gotta load up and travel that far. And I get it. And it's the same way out here. I mean, the closest track we got is literally an hour away. So I mean, it's a commitment for people to to do that. So I'm happy to hear that there's some new tracks opening up, or old tracks kind of reopening up again
Yeah,
and whatnot, to kind of make it a little bit simpler to ride our dirt bikes so that we enjoy doing.
for sure. And I think the misconception about dirt bikes is that it's all a bunch of like roughneck hillbilly kind of degenerates, right? Like that's what the scene was back in the 90s, right? But these
Yeah,
days, I think moto is great. It keeps people off the streets. You know, for me, motocross was like that was my passion all through high school. It kept me out of trouble. I didn't drink, I didn't party, I rode moto. And I
yeah.
think that more people need to find their passion in moto. I think it's great. Electric bikes, I hate to say it, I honestly think are going to be the things that save the sport.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have an electric KTM for my son, and I mean, a couple of the reasons I bought it: one, I enjoy the no maintenance to it.
Yeah.
Two, they're very easy to teach a kid how to ride them. Like, it's crazy how easy it is, and the different options, the settings, and stuff like that. It's a great introductory bike. The problem is that they're $7,000, so
For a
not
kid's bike.
everybody not everybody is
Oh my
necessarily running into
goodness.
the dealer to buy their
Oh,
kid that maybe hasn't shown a lot of interest in dirt bikes
yeah.
to get started on a $7,000 motorcycle.
Yeah, they need an
Um,
in-betweener or something like that. Just
exactly. I mean, if they could come out with something that's like $3,000, might be a little more. That even seems like a lot, but it's yeah. I mean, I think it's still a ways away before like guys like me and you are riding electric bikes,
yeah,
but
for sure. For
I
sure.
think that I think that it is definitely. I mean, literally, my kid can ride that KTM race bike anywhere he wants. Like, he can
Yeah.
ride it up and down our little street in front of our house, and people look and go, "Oh, that's really cool." People aren't going, "What the hell are you
Yeah,
doing? Why is it so loud?" Right?
exactly.
So
100%.
it's kind of cool in that aspect. So it is definitely the way of the future. I just think it's got a ways to go as far as big bikes go, because like there's still some things they need to work on with it.
Yeah, as far as batteries,
Totally.
I know that they like when you're getting low on juice, that kind of messes around with the power of the bike, which is super
Yeah.
dangerous when you're but the thing, like, you got to think the progression of the sport, right? A lot of the older guys that have been around, you know, old guys, they'd still be driving their old pickup trucks if they could, if they still
Oh,
ran, right? No one likes to give it up. But if these kids are learning on electric bikes, what do you think they're going to be the most comfortable on by the time they're 16 years old trying to turn pro or whatever, right? They're going to
yeah.
want electric bikes, right?
Yeah.
So I think
No,
it's going that way.
I agree for sure. Like, even with my kid, like, he's kind of almost outgrown the E50 for the aspect that I'm charging the thing nonstop because he's riding it harder, he's getting heavier. But
Yeah.
it's going to be basically he's only 5.
Holy crap.
When I have to go next year to get him a KTM 50 SX gas model, which he's going to need to get, it's going to be like starting all over again,
Yeah.
which I'm not overly excited about doing
Well,
because we made such good progress with the e-bike. But timing wise, it's not perfect. But I think eventually, probably, in years to come, 4 years, 5 years, those kids will be able to start out on a 50 electric. They'll be able to go to a 65 electric, up into an 85 electric, and then so on and so on.
yeah.
Which will be neat. There's no question. It's no different than us. We grew up riding 2 strokes, and making that transition to the 4-stroke was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And it's funny to talk to the kids at the track now. Some of them have never, maybe necessarily, rode much on the 2-stroke side, right? Because
Well, go back and ride the 2-stroke and find out how weird that is.
yeah,
I'm riding a YZ250 now, and I'm like, it's really weird. I miss the engine
yeah,
braking. I miss the power.
yeah. Guys ask me all the time, hey, take my 250 stroke for a ride. Sorry, man, I have no interest. Like, I
Yeah.
literally have no interest. I put my 450 in 3rd gear, and I don't shift it for the whole track. And I sit down and I turn the throttle, and it's fairly easy for me. I have no interest in clutching, shifting, and
Yeah.
hearing all that noise.
Oh yeah, it's different. Because I never rode a 252 stroke. I went KX 100 right to a 250F, and then I rode
Okay.
to a 50F. So a
Yeah.
friend of mine I just called them up and I said, hey, do you still have your bike? Because I want to start riding again, because it's a pandemic. And he goes, yeah, I got it. I'm like, would you take $1,500 for it? He goes, would you do $500? He sold me the thing for, it's an 06 in mint shape. So I'm like,
Nice.
I couldn't pass that up. But
That's cool.
I know for me as a kid, I was intimidated by the sound of the bikes, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that might get more kids interested, because some kids have, a bit of a fear of the bikes because they're so noisy. You
Yeah.
get them on an electric bike and there goes all that fear and anxiety about that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's no question. I mean, kids are very sensitive to sound. My son was the same way. I mean, when I started out, riding a PW50, he hated riding on the track with other guys that, had maybe KTM 50s or Cobra or something like that. But it's almost even worse now because he's on the e-bike. So there's literally no sound. And little Johnny could be behind him by 100 feet, but it sounds like he's right on his ass, right? Because there's absolutely no sound coming out of the e-bike.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's kind of interesting. And obviously it hasn't grown to the point where you can have an e-bike class only, right? You still have to mix them up and stuff. But it will change. It will come, and it will be similar probably to the four-stroke takeover like it happened everywhere else. And we won't be able to believe our eyes, but it's the way that's going to be.
I know. Oh, I started a message board thread on Vital about it, and so many guys were like, that'll be the death of the sport. Like, that's like he's probably the same guy that doesn't believe in neck braces, right?
Exactly.
So
No,
there's always those people. So anyway, thank you for coming on, Ryan. I really appreciate that. It was nice talking to you, and thanks again for you guys helping out with the pod and everything like that. Best of luck.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Honestly, it's been fun, and happy to be involved with the show. And like you had said there in your first episode, once things get down the road here a little bit further, we do some giveaways on Atlas stuff and whatnot. And thanks for having me, and appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Take care.
Thanks, man.
All right, that was Ryan Lockhart, the Noof. Thanks to him for coming on. It was a really good discussion about Atlas Brace, and you guys got a really good insight into what that's all about. I've been using an Atlas Brace for the last 3 years, and I can't say enough about the product. I believe in it. I think it's really a great product. I want to thank our other sponsors, Slabtown Cider in Uxbridge, Ontario. Friday, patio's open, everybody. So head on out to, it's going to be limited numbers, but hopefully you can get your patio time at Slabtown. Check out their vanilla bourbon. That's their new cider they've got. It's barrel aged, so check that out. You can also pick yourself up some Slabtown. Where is it? Right there. Some Slabtown hand sanitizer. Keep the COVID off you. And our new sponsor that just came on is Endure Apparel. They make cycling socks. If you head to Endure right now, you can get 10% off site-wide. So check those out. They've got socks, buffs, masks. I've personally used their socks, and they're amazing. They breathe so well. So eventually we're going to have some, like Ryan just said, we're going to be doing some giveaways. So if you guys check out potsy.ca, you can find the podcast here. You can find a link to our sponsors as well. There's a donate button if you want donate. That helps keep the show going, helps us with our vision of getting helmets on everybody's heads, trying to make action sports safer. So that's it for now. Remember to dress for the crash, not for the ride.